Javier Mendez opened his eyes with the weight of years pressing down on his chest. Every mistake he had avoided, every risk he had taken, every late night spent chasing a dream, all of it stood in judgment on this single morning. He had rehearsed until his voice cracked, memorized figures until the numbers blurred together, shaped his pitch like a blade meant to cut through doubt. But now, sitting across from two men whose reputations were built on precision and the quiet dismantling of weaker opponents, the confidence he had forged felt fragile. The leader did not look at him once. His fingers moved over the documents with slow, deliberate turns, the sound of each page landing sharper than any question. The other man sat still, a shadow beside him, eyes lifting only to exchange quick glances with his partner, silent messages Javier could not read but felt deep in his gut. They spoke without words, and whatever they were saying, he knew it was not in his favor. He could hear his own pulse in the silence. Every second pulled something from him, certainty, strength, hope, until the air between them was heavy enough to crush what little advantage he thought he had left. The meeting had barely begun, and already the clock was whispering that he was running out of time. The leader's hands stopped. The folder shut with a quiet finality, and without lifting his eyes, he said, "I don't think this project is what we're looking for." The words hit like a verdict. Javier's throat tightened, but he forced his voice steady, pushing numbers across the table, laying out forecasts and strategies as if logic alone could rewind the moment. He spoke faster, layering each point with the urgency of a man who could see his future collapsing in real time. But the more he gave, the colder their silence grew. The leader's gaze stayed fixed, the partner's expression unchanged except for the faintest twitch of disapproval. They saw a company too small, too rooted in one corner of the world to play in theirs. Javier felt the balance shifting away from him, the edge of the deal slipping through his fingers no matter how hard he tried to hold on. The door opened without warning. Javier turned, already bracing to wave whoever it was away, but froze when he saw Mariana, the delivery worker who had been in and out of his office for years, standing there in her red uniform, thermal bag still in her hand. She caught the tail end of the leader's dismissal, and the look in her eyes shifted. One investor frowned sharply at the intrusion, his disapproval clear, but she didn't back away. Instead, she stepped forward, her gaze locking with the Arab leaders, and in flawless Arabic she said, "I know why this deal is worth it for you." The air went still. Even the sound of breathing seemed to vanish. Whatever she was about to say next would not just interrupt the meeting, it would change its course entirely. Mariana's voice carried no hesitation. She began to speak of the company as if she were part of its heartbeat, not just a visitor at the door. She told them how it had grown, not from luck or chance, but from the loyalty of people who believed in it. She spoke of the client who had been on the verge of losing $1 million deal until a delivery arrived in the final minutes, and of the worker who, after losing everything, found a second chance within these walls. Each story came without embellishment, drawn from what she had seen with her own eyes. Her tone never wavered, her words steady and sure, as if she understood exactly what was at stake. For the first time, the leader lifted his gaze to Javier, not with dismissal, but with the first flicker of interest. The door cracked open again, this time with an assistant moving quickly to the leader's side. A few words in Arabic, low and urgent, and a folder slid into the leader's hands. His eyes moved over the pages, and his face tightened. "There's information here I don't like." Javier's chest tightened as the report was laid out, an accusation of a failed delivery in Dubai, a deal worth millions lost. The claim was impossible, his company had never operated there. He said it at once, firm and certain, but the disbelief on their faces didn't shift. The weight of suspicion pressed between them, and the thin thread holding the meeting together began to fray. Every second pulled the deal closer to breaking. Mariana's eyes narrowed as the pieces fell into place. Months earlier, there had been an external supplier, unreliable, evasive, operating under a name dangerously close to Javier's. She remembered the mess they had caused before the contract was cut. Now the Dubai report made a bitter kind of sense. It wasn't Javier's failure. It was someone else, using his company's reputation for their own gain. The leader's palm struck the table, sharp and final. If you can't convince us now, this meeting is over. The clock had started, and Mariana had only minutes to pull the truth into the light before everything Javier had built was gone. Mariana's voice cut through the tension. She asked for 5 minutes, no more. Her fingers moved quickly over her phone, scrolling through months of messages, pulling up documents she had kept, and finally the signed letter ending the supplier's contract. Each piece was proof, clear and unshakable, that the Dubai disaster had nothing to do with Javier's company. She handed the phone to the assistant first, speaking in Arabic so every detail could be checked without delay. The leader and his partner listened as the explanation unfolded, their eyes still guarded but no longer entirely closed. Doubt was giving way to something else, the possibility they had been wrong. Javier stepped in, his voice steady now, laying out the actions taken since that supplier's contract was cut, new safeguards, tighter controls, every measure designed to protect the brand from another betrayal. The skeptical investor, who had sat like stone for the entire meeting, began to nod slowly. The leader's gaze moved from Javier to Mariana and back again before he spoke. Not everyone would let someone else speak for them. You trust your people, that says a lot about how you run your company. The tension in the room eased, replaced by a current of movement and possibility. Questions shifted from doubt to logistics, from suspicion to the first steps of a partnership. Mariana, who had walked in with a delivery bag, now sat at the center of the conversation, her input shaping the terms as if she had been part of the team all along. When the final details were settled, the leader rose, extending his hand to Javier. Deal. And I hope this woman keeps working for you, with people like her, success is guaranteed. It felt like victory had been sealed, yet one unanswered question lingered: who had set the false report in motion, and why? Days later, Javier's pen moved across the biggest contract of his life, the ink sealing a future he had almost watched collapse. Mariana stood beside him, no longer just the woman in the red uniform. He handed her a letter of appointment, coordinator of international relations, and the words came without hesitation. That day, you didn't just save a deal, you saved years of work and the whole company. From abroad, the investors sent a personal letter, their praise for her courage and sharp thinking written plainly, without ceremony. Appearances had proven deceptive, and he knew now that respect and dignity were the only terms that could never be bargained away. But somewhere, the person who forged that Dubai report was still moving unseen, and now they knew Javier had survived their first attempt.